It's very much like, hey, how did you fit into the meeting? You just stand up at your chair and sit down. Okay. No problem.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our general body meeting for Toastmasters. It's great to see everyone here after the weekend. I know midterms are kind of in and out, that kind of weird in between, but still great to see both new and returning members here today. So to kick off this meeting, would anyone like to volunteer and read off our mission statement, which you can find in the bottom left corner of the agenda? Yes, sir.
We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth.
Thank you for that. And now to kick off the meeting, I will call it to the stage, Zach.
Thank you, Tricia. Well, it's another week, another Toastmasters meeting. I really love it every single day, or every single week, starting off with Toastmasters, getting out the way, getting my stage fright out the way so I can present on other things throughout the week, unfortunately. And I think this week is going to be amazing. Nate is taking over table topics, which is the first time he's done that, so hopefully he'll do good. I know you're going to do good because you're charismatic. And I'm speaking, Sarena's speaking, and I honestly look forward to both of our speeches, even though I'm going to be up on stage. But rather than dilly-dally, I'll just pass it on to the Toastmaster of the day, Onur.
Thanks, Zach. Hello, everybody. It's great to see new faces, some old faces too. So I'm glad the weather's looking nice today after this weekend. We're going to start off the Toastmasters meeting. And so first, I'd like to introduce the 3 rules we're going to have that are going to be constantly going on throughout the meeting. So first, we have our timer.
Yep. So the timer for today, I will give you the green when you've met the minimum time, yellow when you've hit the middle, and then red when you have 30 seconds before you no longer be eligible for words.
Thank you, guys. And we have Aiken as our off-counter.
As the odd counter, I will be basically counting all the filler words such as and, so, like, all that kind of filler words, and I hope you can refrain from using as much as possible.
And last but not least, we have Scott as our grammarian of the day.
Perfect. So I'll just be looking over the content of your speech, not in terms of what is being said, but in how you're forming your sentences and whether you're using correct grammar or not.
And these roles, they're going to be monitoring you throughout the meeting, and they're here to help you improve at the end. There will be a time where they give their reports, so you can really reflect on where to improve. And in addition to all that, we also have the word of the day, which is repudiate. And it is a verb. It means refuse to accept or be associated with. Now, anyone who's up here on the stage, if they use the word of the day, then the audience will snap, and we'll have our grammarian keep track of that, and it's like a little bonus prize just for using the word of the day today. And now, the meeting is going to be structured in 3 parts. First, we're going to have prepared speeches. We have 2 speeches today. And then we're going to have table topic section, which I'm not going to get too much into the details, but it gives you an opportunity to come up here, give a quick 1 to 2 minute impromptu speech, and then we'll have evaluations. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the first speaker of today, Sarena, with her speech titled Reborn for 5 to 7 minutes.
One of the strongest people in my life that I know is missing a hand. But that's not the only thing that she's missing from her life either. When she was a baby, she was abandoned by her parents and left in an orphanage. This orphanage was located in Central Asia. As a baby, she didn't get enough attention from the people in the orphanage. She didn't have any parents. So she developed this disorder called reactive attachment disorder. So that means when you grow up, it's hard for you to form these attachments to anybody in your life because you can't trust them and you don't know who they are because you never had this intimate, secure attachment when you were a kid with someone. So it's hard for her to do that in that aspect of her life. But however, despite being abused, neglected, and bullied for her entire life, she's grown into a confident woman who can stand strong for herself. Now, the only reason she was able to bounce back from these past circumstances was because she was adopted. Her parents from the US adopted her, raised her, cared for her, and even had to go through some struggles of their own. So, for example, she had struggles such as PTSD. She had RAD, which I just talked about. She had bipolar depression. And she had to go to the mental health school multiple times to get multiple medications in order to combat that. However, now she is in a much better place, and thanks to her parents, she has gotten into college. She is currently taking college classes, and she even has a job. So that's one example of success story of adoption. But if you think about it, what would have happened if she never got adopted? In fact, a lot of parents like to repudiate themselves with adoption. According to statistics, one-third of parents have considered adoption, but only 2% of people have actually adopted, 2% of Americans. Over 400,000 kids are in the foster care system, and 100,000 kids are waiting to be adopted. If you're in the adoption system, if you're in the foster care system, and you are 18, you are kicked out. You don't have anywhere to go. You may have some benefits from the government, but there is a much more likely chance that you will be homeless, that you will be uneducated and without a college education, that you will be unemployed, and that you might even end up in jail. So we have this biological desire to have our own children. But on the other hand, we have this emotional desire to help other people. So the best way to consolidate those two desires is to adopt another child in the world as your own and raise them as if they are your own. A lot of people, if you think about it, they want to have their own biological child. But if you think about it, what benefit is there actually to having a child with your own genes? Evolutionarily, there is a purpose. But are we at that stage anymore in life? No. Our generation, we love this idea of sustainability, right? We think about the planet, but let me tell you what. One of the most unsustainable things for the planet are humans. So why would you bring another human into the world when there are so many other humans out there who have to live unsustainable lives because they don't have parents and can't grow up in this way? See, there will always be kids needing a stable home, and the world doesn't need more kids to enter it. The planet is estimated to reach overpopulation in 20 to 30 years from now. So that means 2040 or 2050. Unfortunately, the rate of adoption has been declining, but I think our generation is the one that can change that. So you may be thinking, why me? Someone else can adopt, doesn't have to be me, plenty of other parents in the world. However, you guys are about to become the 7% of the world that has a college degree. You are very likely to get out of college, get a job, and grow up in a middle or upper class lifestyle. And a lot of people can't have that. So you guys are the perfect people to adopt. In fact, regardless of whether you have a biological child, regardless of if you have an adopted child, if you have children in general, I'm sure you guys are going to be amazing parents. Because you guys are going to be able to provide this great, solid lifestyle for your child. You're going to be able to provide a roof over their head, you're going to be able to provide food, and you're going to be able to train them in the ways of how to become an educated citizen of society. But the difference is that a child who is in the foster care system or in an orphanage will never get that chance. If you raise them, you will be able to help them get that college education and work towards it, whereas they otherwise wouldn't have been able to. You have this amazing opportunity to break the cycle of poverty, of abuse, and neglect. In fact, 75% of children who eventually get adopted have experienced some sort of neglect or abuse in their prior life. Think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. As a parent, your job is to provide physiological needs, safety needs, and love and belonging needs for your child. A child is unable to do that by themselves. But once a child has that, and once a parent can provide that to an adopted child, then that child is able to fulfill these needs of esteem and self-actualization, and they can become a successful member of society. Adopted children, therefore, can become strong, they can become resilient, and they can grow to have an amazing life that they wouldn't have otherwise had. So this is my question to you. Will you simply let a child be born? Or will you give a chance to a child to be reborn? Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sarena, for that moving speech. And now, everybody, there is a ballot in front of you. If you could take a few seconds to write down on speaker one some feedback you have for Sarena, what you think she did well, where you think she could improve. And once you're done, you can rip it off and send it towards the center. We're going to be collecting them in these little black bins in the middle. And yeah, all the feedback will go to Sarena to help her improve moving on with her speeches. And with that, let's move on to our second speech. I'd like to introduce our second speaker, Zach. His speech is titled Navigating Pathways, and it's going to be 5 to 7 minutes. So Zach, come on up.
Toastmasters International. It's a very prestigious club. It's very well known around the world. All companies know the name of Toastmasters, even if before you joined this club, you had no idea what it was. When you write down Toastmasters and put the CL, Competent Communicator, CC, Competent Leader, or one of the new pathway systems, all of a sudden, all of your recruiters, all of your employers will realize that you have some idea how to communicate on a stage. These sentences are heard by some of our older members many times. Onur, you've heard this many times from many different people. Sarena, the same. But there's some people here that heard it maybe once and didn't really take it in. Toastmasters International is in 400 different countries with thousands of different clubs throughout the entire country. Based in California, it has a huge presence all over the world. Whether you move to London, India, Scotland, or stay in the US, you will see Toastmasters everywhere. Because Toastmasters is proven to make good speakers. Recently, they changed the entire system. They realized that the old system of manuals, they used to have manuals that are called Competent Communicator, where you go through 10 sets of speeches, which start with an icebreaker. You tell the story of yourself to everyone in the audience, because you really know yourself the best. So you can stand up here for 4 to 6 minutes, even if you're afraid of the entire audience. Just stand and talk about yourself for 4 to 6 minutes. And then once you get done with that, you go into organizing your speech. Then you go into vocal variety. Then you go into body motion. And you even go into visual aids or inspiring your audience. That was the old system. Competent leaders did a similar thing where they had different projects that they needed to complete. But they realized Toastmasters was used in different fields, whether it was business, whether it was coding, whether it was teaching or even in sports. Everyone needs to know how to communicate, no matter what field you're in. And that's why they rolled out this new system. And this new system is called Pathways. Most of you heard Linda's speech from last week, actually. Sorry, the time goes about slow. And you got the rundown of Toastmasters, a program called Pathways. So I don't need to babble on about this because you understand the importance of Pathways in our club. So I'll just go into the next portion, which is demonstrating how to navigate Toastmasters Pathways effectively so that you're not completely lost in the system. Keep in mind, this is a very new system, so every single time they're adapting it. There might be videos on this website that says there's 10 paths, even though there's already 11. But with that said, we can start.
New experience, and exciting, flexible. Welcome to the Toastmasters Pathways Learning Experience.
With this video.
An exciting, flexible, and interactive way to develop your skills. Building on Ralph Snibley's original vision and Toastmasters' core competencies, Pathways upholds the club experience while offering new, revitalized educational content that helps you learn communication and leadership skills. The skills you will learn will give you a competitive advantage in the workplace and maximize your potential. Pathways allows you to leverage more than 300 competencies across more than 60 projects. These projects are divided into 11 specialized learning paths that allow you to tailor your experience to fit your goals and your pace. While all paths have the same level of difficulty and help to build public speaking skills and confidence, each path has its own unique focus. All 11 paths feature elective projects to choose from that allow you to further tailor your experience. All of this content is available online and is accessible from a computer, laptop, or tablet, allowing you to learn anytime, anywhere. Printed and accessible materials are also available. With Toastmasters members around the globe, we've also translated Pathways materials into a variety of languages, including French, Simplified Chinese, and Spanish. If you'd like to work online, Basecamp is the place where you'll find all of the materials for your learning experience, along with tools for your journey. On Basecamp, you'll be able to share feedback with fellow club members, view badges you earn, access and save digital speech evaluations, and more. When you first begin Pathways, you can take an optional online assessment that will recommend the path that best aligns with your goals. Projects include a variety of interactive elements, including questionnaires, quizzes, menus, and expandable content. Educational videos model skills and provide demonstrations of the concepts you are learning. Pathways brings with it many new learning opportunities. It upholds your club experience while allowing you to tailor your education experience to fit your needs. And best of all, your first path is free with your membership. So what are you waiting for? Choose your learning path and you'll be well on the way to building a better you.
So that was a rundown on Pathways. I'll show you how now to start your own first pathway. The first thing you need to do is log on to toastmasters.org, as you see in the URL. And you log into your personal account. If you have questions about logging into your account, please address Sarena. After that, you click on the tab called Pathways. And click on the thing called Go to Basecamp. You're greeted with this website, and you click on Continue to Path Selection. For your first path, you don't see this $20 price. Instead, it's free, like it says in the video. And when you choose your first path, you have to take an assessment. This is basically a personality test, how you feel on stage and what strengths are you trying to build with Toastmasters. And they will group you with the correct path that you want to learn. Soon you will be greeted with let's see. You can go onto this website, which was going to Basecamp. So you'll see this Welcome to Basecamp website. And over here, you'll see your education transcript. Here you'll see the path that you selected. Mine is going to be innovative planning. Opening this curriculum, you'll see all the programs that Linda was talking about last week. So level 1 contains your icebreaker, your evaluation and feedback, your research and presenting, and of course level 1 completion, which when you complete, it sends a message to the VP of Education. Please let her know that you completed it so we can streamline the process. And that's true with every single one of these from level 1 to level 5. Of course, when you get on this, you'll see activate and launch. Once you activate a program, you'll be taken to basically the pre-speech work and the evaluations. So the pre-speech work is giving you all the materials that you will need to give this speech. So it gives you tips, gives you research, gives you everything that you would need to be an effective speaker when you do decide to give a speech. Of course, you don't need to start with icebreaker now that they've opened every single thing to you. Of course, it is encouraged that you start or do this in order. And after you give the speech, you give the evaluations to the person that you've marked as your evaluator on the agenda. And they will complete the evaluations for you. After that's done, it will complete that project. And the 0% will turn to 5% or 10%. Well, with that said, is there any questions over the program? If there's no questions, then that concludes my speech. Thank you.
If everybody could fill out the feedback for Zach, let him know who's on the speech and where he's going to move on. And then were all of our speakers in time today?
So I don't know whether the video is supposed to count towards the time total or not. If it does, he was like way over by like 3 minutes, but like I have no idea.
It wasn't supposed to, but it doesn't matter.
I mean, you were probably in time without the video, because how long was the video that you showed?
2:40.
2:45 seconds.
Then you would be within time, if I subtract that.
So there's also another slip further down where it asks you to choose the best speaker and second best. I guess today it doesn't really matter if you put in second best because there are only 2 speakers, but if you could fill that out, and this will be taken at the end, and there will be voting. Well, this is the voting, and we'll nominate our best speaker. And as Zach mentioned, this is a fairly new program that is being brought out, that has been brought out. And so if you guys do have any more questions as you navigate through the process, feel free to reach out to me or any one of the other officers. We'll be happy to help you out. Jump on ahead to the next part of the meeting. This is personally one of my favorite parts. This is table topics. And without further ado, I'd like us to give a warm welcome to Nate. He's going to be our table topics master today.
So, in thinking of table topics today, I was going to do something Halloween themed, but it's a little too early because we have a meeting next week that's closer to Halloween. So, So the fourth Democratic debate was also this week, so I decided to do about that.
Click present.
Just find it. There we go, find it. All right, so every one of these people is a Democratic presidential candidate for 2020. Except the Don, of course, and the Don left. There are 12 main ones that debated in the fourth presidential campaign, but in the fourth presidential debate. But I had to cut Julian Castro just so it fit on the grid. So yeah, choose one of these guys. Do we have any volunteers for our first table topic speaker? Yeah, sorry.
Donald Trump.
So you're gonna go with the Don.
Yeah.
President Donald Trump has been criticized for spending too much time in his presidency on the golf course. He has gone 223 times at a cost of about $110 million to the taxpayers. So, how do you spend the majority of your free time? How do you find entertainment?
How do I find entertainment? That's a question that I myself wonder what I do in my free time. Like before I came to college, oftentimes I'd watch a TV show or like play some basketball with my brother, or just hang out with my friends. But after coming to college, it's kind of weird because I don't really have an idea of free time. It's like my work time and my free time, they all like merge together to form this like hybrid thing where I'm working while I'm also like hanging out with people. So like in my free time, I guess I just sit there and wait for people that I know to just come around and just like be like, hey, you want to do this, you want to do that, you know? Like I don't have like a set go-to thing. Like between classes, for example, I have like an hour or something between my classes, right? In between my class, I literally just go back to my dorm and I just sit there for like a solid 30 minutes doing not even like, maybe on my phone just like scrolling a little bit and then I just walk into my next class. So I'd say I've really lost that idea of really doing something in my free time, but I'd say just sitting there and letting random things happen to me is something that's unique because I don't have to actually do anything. Things come to me, so I guess that's unique in my perspective. Thank you.
Any more volunteers? Zach, who do you want?
Tulsi again.
Tulsi, interesting choice. She's polling very low. Tulsi is a congresswoman from Hawaii and a veteran. She is presently a major in the U.S. Army National Guard, and she also has 6 years of experience in Foreign Affairs, in the Foreign Affairs Committee, and the Armed Services Committee. She has drawn support from alt-right groups, including David Duke himself, which she disavowed emphatically. What compliments have you received recently, welcome or unwelcome? How did you respond to that compliment?
So, I have a weird history with compliments. I've gotten compliments that start off as major insults and then turned into compliments, which I guess is they didn't mean it and they try to like twist it. Recently, I was told that I was a 56-year-old. I don't know what that means. I guess I carry myself like a 56-year-old, but I literally heard a girl was like, yeah, Zach, he's a middle-aged man in a 22-year-old's body. I was like, oh, okay, that's strange. And then I turned to her because I was literally sitting next to her, and she said, I mean you're mature. And I'm wondering, does she actually mean that? Or is it just that my jokes aren't coming across well? So, how do I respond to a compliment like that? I usually just nod and let her deal with it, because it's all coming from the same girl. Every single time she says something without thinking, and then same, and then all of a sudden she turns and is like, I meant you're mature, you look good for your age. Something like that. So that's how I respond to a comment that was a compliment that's not exactly wanted. Thank you.
If it makes you feel any better, you do not live 56 years old. Any volunteers? Time to start. Onur. Okay. Andrew Yang. Great work. Democratic hopeful Andrew Yang's flagship proposal is a universal basic income for all adult citizens, 18 or older, of the United States called the Freedom Dividend. This dividend comes in response to the rapid job loss and the expansion of automation in what Yang calls the fourth industrial revolution. How would you spend an extra $1,000 a month, or how would an extra $1,000 change your life? What would you do with it?
Okay, so I have never heard of this fourth industrial revolution, but as a broke college student, $1,000 a month sounds fantastic. So the first 2 months, I would blow through all of it. Not leave a single cent, just do everything I want to do. You know, maybe go on a weekend trip to somewhere. Probably at the end of the year, I would take a road trip all the way to California and back and just hit all the sites. Just have it all planned out. I'm pretty sure I could do that in like $2,000 to $3,000. And then after I've had my fun, and I get over the fact that like, okay, I have an extra $1,000, I start being a responsible adult. You know, start putting some into savings, start doing smart things with it, because no one's going to give you $1,000 a month for your life. It's going to be gone as soon as they realize, wait, this isn't working. But yeah, the trip to California. So it's interesting. My roommates actually brought that up, and they were really excited for it. And so what we're going to be doing is, we're going to be hitting a bunch of big cities. We're going to hit New Orleans. We're going to go through Texas, hit Austin, hit Houston. Maybe go through Las Vegas, hit Los Angeles, San Francisco, all the big name cities that you think of. And we're going to do this all smushed into 3 weeks in one car, hitting up the cheapest motels we can find. And all of our money is probably going to go to food, because there's no way we're going to be good. But there are plenty of good restaurants all across the United States. That's what I would do with $1,000 a month.
Wait, any more volunteers? Still plenty of candidates to choose from. I think it's picking time. Ben. Who do you want?
I'll take Bernie.
Bernie? Nice. Bernie Sanders has a strong Brooklyn accent that is impossible to imitate, but SNL's Larry David's similar Jewish background and New York upbringing allows him to effectively mimic the senator in his crusade against the millionaires and billionaires of this country. What kind of environment did you grow up in, and how did it shape you into the person you are today?
Okay, so I grew up near Decatur, like right on the edge of it, and I went to a elementary school called Sagamore Hills. Sounds like the type of place that the name implies, sagging, Sagamore Hills. In fact, I was in a kindergarten gang. I'm completely serious. It was a legitimate gang. And I had so much fun. I was number 2 in command. You see, nobody tells you how you join one of these things, right? You just walk into class on the first day of school and a kid says, yo, you want to be my friend? And I was like, sure. And he became my friend, and I joined the kindergarten gang. The biggest thing we did was throw rocks through a window. One time at recess, there was an open window outside, and my friend who was in charge of the gang had the idea to just start throwing rocks through it. And of course I followed him. And you know, I was number 2, I had to back him up. Well, then the assistant principal came over outside and said, "Who's throwing rocks through the window?" All of us just did this, looking around, and she said, "No, you guys were doing it, weren't you?" "No, we weren't." Well, we were, and apparently that open window leads to the girls' bathroom. And as those rocks have been flying in, apparently girls have been screaming as the rocks have been coming in, and of course we couldn't hear it apparently from outside, but that was that. And how that made me who I am today? Well, I moved from there to Gwinnett County to Simpson Elementary when I was in first grade, and that was a super, it was basically a private school because it was in a really rich, like, insulated community, and it was culture shock for me because I had never been somewhere where it wasn't super diverse before. And so these two different worlds that I inhabited have come together to make me who I am today. So, that's it.
Throwing rocks is an interesting way to talk to girls.
Yes.
Scott, who do you want?
I'll pick Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. Presidential candidate Joe Biden is most notably known for his term as vice president under President Barack Obama. Their friendship is well documented, even in bracelet form. What qualities do you most look for in a friend?
I'd like to start off with saying, like, somebody who I'd look, like, some of the things that I'd look for in a friend are, like, just to be somewhat compassionate, be able to be understanding, and that way I can get to kind of know them better, because if you don't really put yourself out there and make yourself available to a friend emotionally, mentally, you're really not going to form a lasting bond with the person, regardless of whether you get along with them or not. The second quality that I'd look for is I hope that they'd at least share some of the values that I do. They don't necessarily have to agree with me, but I think it's a lot easier to respect the person if you share some of the same values. The third thing that I'd look for is I'd look for somebody that I could share a laugh with. I want someone who's able to be understanding, compassionate, but also able to not take life too seriously. I'd look for somebody who is positive and upbeat, kind of somebody to relate to and kind of lower your stress levels, and you're able to kind of form a connection in a unique and special way. I'd also like to say that I think that friends don't necessarily have to come in that specific fashion. You can make friends in other ways, but it's important to look for like special friends that you can basically carry on throughout your entire life, and recognize when you truly do have a good friend that you hold on to them and you treat them well.
Carlos, how's the closure?
All right.
Presidential candidate Klobuchar has built a reputation of putting partisanship aside to help strengthen the economy and support families. In 2016, an analysis by Medill News Service ranked her first among all 100 senators in sponsoring or co-sponsoring bills that were enacted into law in the 114th Congress. What is the key to effective collaboration? What makes a good team?
Okay, so the most obvious part about a team is that there's more than one person. It can be two people, or usually when it comes to Senate, it's 100 people. So I think that the most important thing when it comes down to collaboration is getting over your own ego and recognizing that you're never going to have 100% of what you want. Because multiple times in debates or arguments, not just even in the Senate, but in between teams and all that, we recognize that sometimes people will only argue when they think that they're going to get everything they want. And once you get past that point, once you realize at some point I'm going to have to give up some stuff and accept something that other people want, it makes teamwork a lot easier. Because it doesn't even have to be monumental, giving up monumental things. I know I was planning a trip with some friends, and I know that we want to go to a specific region in an area. And they said that they didn't really want to come along because they wanted to visit somewhere else. So we said, you know what, it's easier maybe we add on a quick pit stop through there. So like giving up some parts is a lot easier than just trying to think that you're going to get everything you want in an argument.
States Senator from Aiken State of New Jersey, and was previously the mayor of Newark from 2006 to 2013. With that said, what's your favorite smell and why?
Well, I would say my favorite smell is pine trees. You know, it's Christmas time. I can remember being very young as a kid, very enthusiastic about Christmas coming around and getting gifts. And one of the smells that I always remember is the Christmas tree smell, and that is always an evergreen tree. So when I was younger, me and my younger brother used to fight all the time on who would have the greatest gift. And for some reason, my mom thought me and my little brother were twins for a while. We were 2 years apart. When we were younger, she dressed us up like twins. She treated us like twins, even though we were a couple years apart, all the way up to we were in high school. So it was a really weird situation where you go to school and your classmates would always pick on you. Hey, someone's wearing the exact same thing you are. I always thought it was my little brother. So that was always a fun time. And another smell I really like is the smell of cake. That goes along with the whole Christmas thing. My mom would bake cakes during Christmas time. Again, would make us excited about the Christmas time coming around. She would also bake cookies, and as I can remember, this kind of the best time of my life is those times. Fortunately, I don't get to do very much of that right now. I struggle with trying to find free time and to relax and do those things, but I'm always high-strung and amped up and doing what I have to do every day to keep my job because I love it. And hopefully throughout this Toastmaster membership, I get to share some of the experiences with you and explain to you why I'm here and what I had to go through to get the job that I have right now.
I also like to smell Anybody else? Ethan, who do you want? Which Democrat?
I think Pete.
Mayor Pete. Mayor Pete is a Rhodes Scholar, Harvard graduate, a U.S. Navy lieutenant, Afghanistan veteran, devout Catholic, and has been the mayor of South Bend, Indiana for the past 8 years. A lifetime of achievement, and he's only 37 years old. What is the number one thing you wish to accomplish in your lifetime?
Hard question. I picked the easy route. The one thing I want to accomplish in my lifetime, right now, is to graduate. You see, I come from a first-generation family. My parents never been to college. I have an older brother and older sister. Both of them never been to college. And picking to graduate college seems something minor. However, I feel like it is the first step to something big. Because this is the stage where I'll find something where I want to do. Starting from a young age, I had no idea what I want to do when I grow up. When I was little, I thought about becoming a taxi driver. After watching all the Jackie Chan movies, it's that's where the excitement is. Someone get on the cab and say, hey, chase after that car. That's what I want to do. And after that, I thought about becoming a chef, just like my dad. Every day, I see him cook delicious food, bring it back home, and I was like, wow, that tastes delicious. Maybe I want to do that. Cooking food to make something happy. But growing up, you start to see more of reality. The suffering that a lot of third world countries are facing. Even in first world countries, there's a lot of people who still struggle to make food for a living, who struggle to support their family. And then there's climate change, and then there's climate change, people now protesting over economics, politics, and all that. So I feel like graduating college is a first step in my progress to see what I want to do in life. Once I get to that stage, maybe I can find my ambition. But right now, as a college student, just have fun and work hard towards that goal. So that's what I want to do in college, or in my lifetime. Just graduate first and then find out where I want to go from there. Thank you.
I think we have 3 people left. Anybody gathering back there? Volunteer? Yeah, Tricia.
I can go with Aurora.
O'Rourke. For the very first question, the very first Democratic presidential debate of the 2020 race, Beto O'Rourke elected to show off his Spanish skills in answering a question about the 70% individual margin tax rate with a couple Spanish phrases. A Twitter storm of memes quickly ensued. What skill/talent do you have that not many people know about? How useful is it?
Oh, I'll go with the language righteous. I'm also not the greatest in Spanish, even after taking it throughout high school. Just a background to myself. I'm from the Philippines, and so within the language, there is a little bit of Spanish immersed. So growing up, you hear the Filipino language, you hear the Spanish words, and sometimes when it came to classes, I'd sometimes confuse Tagalog, which is the Filipino language, and Spanish, and like mix the grammar up. And so that's why I sometimes call myself like a 1.75 almost bilingual. That's like semi-hidden talent there. Another one, I can bend my thumb almost in a 90-degree angle. That's not the most useful, but I can like make a 90-degree angle with that. Maybe cool furniture. I've seen people do like that thing where like they jump over, but I'm not quite athletic enough to do anything that of a scale of a physical feat. We'll end it there. Thank you.
I think Kamala, Tom Stiles, that kind of lawyer, remember that. Slate, Slate, yeah. Who do you want? Yeah. Yeah, no, okay, Warren. During the 2016 presidential campaign, Donald Trump famously began using the name Pocahontas as a slur against Senator Elizabeth Warren because of her Native American heritage. Beyond the titles and words that other people have given to categorize you, who are you? What do most people not know about you? Tuffy, sorry.
Okay, so who am I and what do most people not know about me? So I like to think the biggest quality is, I think I mentioned before, is just that I love to help people and that I'm just super generous. Like, there's like, for example, if there's someone like struggling in my class, I make like an effort to like help with their studies. And then so when they tell me that horrible grade they get, I just cringe. I'm like, don't tell me that grade, because like I just really strive to help them and I try and bring them up and like increase that grade. And so I just have this like, it's almost a curse of wanting to help people and see them succeed. So I like to think that's a good curse. That's probably something not many people know about me. And I think that just goes throughout anything I do. There's like someone asks for help, or I just see an avenue where they don't even ask, simple things like dropping something, or like, hey, can anyone meet me beforehand to set up a meeting? I'm like, I'm there. So I think I'm always that person. I'm gonna try to be humble about it, but I say that's my biggest quality. Other than that, something they don't know about me, I like to say I'm a big outdoors person. I haven't done like the last year, so that's kind of contradicts myself, but love to go hiking, love the outdoors, kayaking, everything like that. So I'd say those are 2 biggest things. Thanks.
You want to go, Sarena?
Yeah, sure. Okay,
All right,
you can
awesome.
take.
I pick?
Yeah.
I think, who else is left?
Here.
Perez and
Yes.
Kamala's left? Yeah, Kamala's a good one. Kamala is the second African American woman to serve on the United States Senate representing the state of California. She is known for her strong prosecutorial style and famously questioned Jeff Sessions last year in regards to the alleged Russian election interference. What is your greatest strength? How can this strength be utilized in your life?
So when I don't think about my strengths, I thought about a classic one that I have as an introvert have, listening. But then I realized there are a lot of introverts out there, and there are a lot of people who are really good at listening. So maybe I'm not that unique in how I listen. But I think my greatest strength would be how I can be really objective. So a lot of the times I can see both sides. I'm someone who would consider myself moderate. I'm not like a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. Even when it comes to like the values that I have and my spirituality, I can see other sides of views. And I don't like to push views on other people because I know that everyone has a story and everyone has a reason that they want to believe something. So if my roommates are arguing about something, I can always see the other side. And so sometimes that gets into kind of an issue with me because people will bring up something and I'm supposed to empathize with them, but I don't actually agree with them. So I want to say the other thing, but at the same time you have to be nice about it. But overall, I'm just really good at seeing both sides of things and be able to be objective. And even though a lot of people tend to go towards one side, or a lot of people will be subjective to groupthink, which basically means that you think what everybody else thinks, I can generally try to see the pros and cons of everything.
That about wraps up everybody. So I'm going to ask you to take a look over here to what I've written down. Soren talked about his friends, staying in the dorm. Zach talked about being a 56-year-old. Onur, he's going to blow all his money, save it, then go on a road trip. Ben, he was from Decatur and he threw the rocks at girls. Scott, he talked about a friend being compassionate, agreeing with him and also funny at the same time. Carlos said a teen should have no ego. Ryan liked to smell pine trees and cake and give us a little history on himself. Aiken wanted to just graduate college as a goal. Tricia has a special talent for language and her phone, which is cool. Slate liked helping people in the outdoors. And Sarena is her greatest strength is being listening and objective. So with that, I'm just going to hand it back over to
And so to wrap up the table topic section. Oh yes, timer. Was everyone in time for table topics? Yes. All right. So there was also another slip at the very bottom where you vote for your best table topic speaker and also second. So you could take a moment to fill that out. And please do vote for second place because that does go into the point system to figure out if there is a tie, who will win. And with that, let's transition over to the last section of the meeting. We have our evaluations. And I'd like to welcome Carlos, our general evaluator, up to the stage.
Yes, I'm your general evaluator today. At the end of the section, I will be evaluating the entire reading, but first I'd like to introduce our first evaluator, who I have Slate, who will be evaluating our first speaker, Sarena.
Alright, so I invited Sarena. She did a phenomenal speech, and she is still working on the old system, the manuals, and she was on her, I believe, 9th speech, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and she's doing persuasive speech. This one was persuade with power, and so spoiler alert, I was persuaded. So I think she did an amazing job. Sort of just going through the guidelines of what they were looking for. I'll actually just start off what I heard from her. So some of the key things you look for in a persuasive speech are to persuade them. So you need to either call them to action or inspire, and I think she kind of did a bit of both. Really. So she started off immediately. It's a great hook, great intro. Start off with the story of that girl. If I'm not mistaken, I try to write it all down, but she got one hand, and so she was an orphan in Central Asia. She had reactive attachment disorder, and so you're immediately already connected. Another appeal you really need to focus on in persuasive is emotional. So I'm already talking about orphans. It's You already like major points for emotions. Then you moved into how immediately what the actual topic was. So adopt these orphans. So you started going into the pluses when she was adopted. She rebounded. How she had all these mental problems. You mentioned, even after being adopted, she had PTSD, the reactive attachment disorder mentioned, bipolar, but she rebounded when she got adopted and just immediately saw results being, in a better situation, better environment. So immediately off the start, again, you had tons of emotion with that story, great hook, and then you built right into the body of it, just tons of hard facts. The second part was sort of speech, and you had actual logic, and you built up your credibility. So some of the stats, you said only 2% of people have adopted, am I correct? And then do you remember the second fact you said? I kind of missed it. You said 2,000, I think, something. I don't quite remember it, but it was another fact, and I think you said 100,000 people are waiting to be adopted right now. So that was I'm like, that's just a huge number, stuck out. And then moving on, you talked about some of the pluses, adopting, went into just more facts. So you said how, when it's more the logic side, you said in 40 years we're going to reach max population, so these people need a place to go. So kind of just it makes sense. So you said adoption rate is declining, so that kind of I saw that's the call to action. And then this is where you started to emphasize, you said you. So that really signified, I was like, oh man, she's talking to me. She said, you guys are the perfect to adopt. And then she said, why? She said, you guys are college students. It's kind of proving you're more prepared to get a better paying job, and have a better family to support this kid you're about to adopt. And then for all those other reasons, why, all the benefits that, a better family. So, and then again, you said, you guys are the perfect to adopt. You said, you have the power to break the cycle. I might paraphrase that a little, that's what I got out of it. And then on that conclusion, really heavy hitter, kind of hit on the emotions again, we simply let a child be born, or we allow them a chance to be reborn. That hit me in the field. So, again, just reiterate, totally persuasive, you're calling us to do something. And then just kind of into the actual aspect of your speech. I think you did great, adequate volume, you got eye contact, you got some gestures. Just in terms of the stage, I recommend maybe using it more fully, just walking, maybe just even for parts of your speech, after that intro, take a step or something, just emphasize you're done with that. Other than that, I think it was really great. Maybe vary your tone just a little bit more between parts of your speech. But other than that, I think it was an amazing piece of speech. Thanks.
All right, and our second evaluator will be Tricia, who will be evaluating this out.
All right, Zach, so your topic was on how to navigate pathways, which is an interest topic that is applicable to every single person in this room. And so just from the content and what you were going to talk about, it had everyone engaged. And so just to recap on the structure of your speech, so you first discussed what is Toastmasters, and when you first came to this speech, you said Toastmasters International, pause. And so that brought people's attention, as well as calling to attention what you were going to talk about. And then after explaining, then you moved over and had a video and a visual, moved over here and directed your attention up there, which I felt was really great, because as you moved over, you stayed paying attention to the video, and that was an unconscious cue for the rest of the audience to go ahead and also pay attention. I didn't see you trying to mess with anything or looking at your phone or your watch, and so that was a great way to keep the audience engaged. And then afterwards, you did a little bit of a conclusion right here, asking for questions, and then that was it. So just some great things to touch on. Clarity, you emphasized all of it. There was a repetition as you had your introduction. When you mentioned oh, they changed the entire system, your hand gestures also illustrated that by moving the entire system. I feel gesture-wise, when you're distinguishing from the old system to the system that we have today, perhaps there could have been a little bit of movement or greater emphasis on your hand gestures, because I felt your hands mostly stayed in this front, so just to have some variation in the gestures there. And then I was, so now to the video, when you started playing it, I was a little bit worried that with a video, it's great because it can recap a lot of things for you, but then you also run the risk of running out of time, but I think we saw that in the end. And then next to your explanation of pathways. So you had the visual and you were looking up, which is great, and you walked through like first here, next here. But then it also started to feel like and next, and using the same phrasing, and basically this does this, basically this does that. Perhaps changing it up, like basically or essentially, or just to get straight to the point, this step will take you here, just to keep that transition moving along. And then one thing, when it came to the conclusion and you were asking the audience for questions, I feel like maybe if you moved back to the center of the stage, back where you started, asking the audience there, and maybe doing like a quick recap, because it was a lot of information that you went through, so just maybe like why it's important, and maybe a recap on like which website to go back to, because people might have forgotten in between as you were explaining. That would have been great, but otherwise, thank you for clearing up what is pathways, and then hopefully we'll be able to all use it effectively.
Alright, now I will begin our general evaluation meeting. So to begin, we started at 5:32. Very good, and I'm partially late that I got here right at 5:30, so I'm at fault there. Also, like just on the lighter side, just one humor. We began by introducing our Toastmaster successfully introduced all three roles, and Yijin fell victim to irony because he is the odd counter and began by using the word But apart from that, all three of our roles explained what they were doing very well. And then I'm going to begin with Onur overall as Toastmaster. He came very well presented. I really liked the tie. He introduced the three roles, and then he also began by presenting how the meeting was going to go with the layout and the structure, which is really good. And then at the beginning, also reminding us to use the ballots and all that. So just really important reminders of the meeting that sometimes since we become so used to it, we might forget. So it was good that he presented that for us. General stuff about the speech, as the evaluators already said, but Sarena also really liked that you had your reference sheet, but you didn't really use it that much. You just occasionally look down at it, but it was really just to remind you certain points. So it didn't look like it was impeding or hindering your speech. It helped with the flow. And Zach, just something really nitpicky, and I just got kind of caught. At one point, I think you said 400 different countries, and I think I don't know if you meant 400 different clubs throughout the world, or something. I don't know, but it was some use there, and they didn't like change of words. But that's just, apart from that, the speech was really good. And Serena's speech was very good as well. And the use of visual, which Tricia also touched upon, was really good that you came over here. So our attention was focused on visual, and then we were done with all of that and all that. And then continuing to our first evaluator, Slate. The part that I enjoyed most of your evaluation was at the beginning. You introduced what Sarena was going for when it came through. You said it wasn't pathways because she was still in the old. So I like that you began by saying this is what she was doing, and this is what her speech was about. Because I know that me as a new member probably wouldn't have caught on to that. So other new members probably might not have caught on. So it's good that you introduced, and maybe for the future, if we're talking about pathways, it's probably going to be good saying this is why they did that speech and all that. I also like that you progressed throughout the speech. So you began with the beginning, and talked about the story they began, and then you said that the word that I really liked was the call to action. That was kind of like the climax of the speech and how we can go from there, and then you talked about delivering the final line. So you progressed chronologically throughout the speech. And then Tricia, yours was also really well structured, and I like that you emulated Zach at the beginning where he began. You also used the same hand motions that he did when you were referencing him. You also walked over here when he walked over here. So you kind of went through his speech again, but instead of saying what he was saying, you simply were commenting on what he said. And I also really enjoyed that you focused on his phrasing of words, talking about like what his speech is and how at one point it kind of became repetitive. So that was very good. And now I'm going to turn to our three roles. So our grammarian, Scott, and what would you like to say?
I'd like to start with the first speaker. Some common issues that I noticed among a few of the different points were that some of the clauses, I wasn't sure where a clause like ended, so I was confused whether there was a transition to another sentence by saying "so that means," or a few other times it just appeared that there wasn't like a pause that I could really pick up on. There was one sentence that I thought began with "but like, let me tell you what." I don't know if that was a continuation of a sentence, but other than that, pretty much all the verbs agreed with each other, and there weren't really any issues with any other issues that I could see at the just at the moment. For the for speaker number 2. Some of the sentences were kind of longer than I expected. I don't really know if like there were multiple phrases that were being interjected or whether it was just the beginning of a sentence, so it was unclear whether you were referring to one subject or another subject, and it was unclear whether there was like either an embedded subject or an example in a sentence, just from what was said during the speech. But other than that, I could not really pick up on anything that was related to either verb tense agreement or anything else in the sentences with improper use of language.
Good job. Our all counter, Eugen, anything you'd like to say first?
Before I begin, I would like to say today was a bit off from our usual, like looking at the pattern, but here it goes. Toastmaster, Onur, 2 and so, 2 so, 1 and. Sarena, for your speech, 6 so, 2 and, 1 1 but. Zach, 4 so, 1 or, 1 but, 11 7 and. Nate, as topic master, 7 so, 6 7 1 but. Carlos as general evaluator, 5 5 3 and so, 1 so, 2 and. Slate as evaluator, 5 and, 12 so, 2 2 and so, 6 like, 3 you know, 1 Tricia as evaluator 2, 3 so, 4 and so, 1 but, 3 11 and then me as the 1 Okay, for the topic speakers, Soren, 5 like, 2 or, 4 so, 2 something. Zach, 3 so, 2 like, 1 but, 2 1 and. Onur, 2 so, 1 you know, 1 like, 3 and, 1 but yeah, 1 1 yeah. Ben, 3 so, 2 1 you see, 1 you know, 2 3 and, 1 but, 1 like. Scott, 1 1 like, 3 kind of, 1 3 Carlos, 2 so, 3 and, 2 like. Brian, 1 well, 13 1 you know, 2 like, 3 and, 2 so. Me, 1 and, 3 2 so, 1 and like, 1 you know, 1 you see. Tricia, 1 3 4 like, 1 and so. Slate, 1 so, 1 and, 9 like, 2 and so, 2 and 2 1 you know, 1 but, 1 Sarena, 4 so, 1 1 but.
Final roll, Ben, we're going to the evaluators in time.
Slate was over by like a minute.
So that means that Slate cannot be used on the ballot for best evaluator. And final thing, I completely forgot to address Nate for table topics. I thought it was a very creative choice, and I like how they were related to a previous fact about them, except for Corey Booker, but I still really enjoyed the Corey Booker session anyway. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and that is all for our general evaluation too. So I'd call it Onur.
Well, this has been an amazing meeting, a very thorough and comprehensive evaluation section. I'm sure we have a lot to take away. So yeah, thank you all for coming out today. This will be concluding the meeting, and right now I'd like to turn it over to Eugen, and he'll help us assign roles. I'm sorry, we're going to turn it over to Zach, the president, to wrap up the meeting.
Alright, well, this is an amazing meeting, even with all the ums, ahs, and filler words. 2 points that I wanted to bring up. Apparently, we have the opposite problem now. There's a ton of people on this side, 4 people on this side. I guess it's somewhat even, but try to even out the room. And the next thing that I want to bring up is make sure if you're giving the rundown on your role in the beginning of the meeting, we usually call the timer, the grammarian, or counter and the grammarian to explain their roles. Please stand up so that it doesn't seem awkward giving you an applause when you're done. And when you're giving the reports, please stand up as well. I think, even though it was in-depth and thorough, for the next meetings, if the awe counter could give that thorough rundown on the speeches, the prepared speeches, because those really matter. The other roles just give the totals and say if you have any questions on what is the spread out of what type of filler words, come to me and have that. So we're not spending literal 5 minutes on you giving your rundown on filler words. With that said, it was an amazing meeting, and Tricia, do you have the count? All right, I'll bring Tricia up for the awards.
So there was almost a tie, but then I did one more last chapter and the tie was broken, so we're good. All right, so best speaker, Sarena. All right, best table topic, Ryan. And I guess by default, the vibrator is no need to applause. So that's it. Thank you everyone for voting for 2 seconds.
So before we assign roles for the next meeting, which I'll call Legion up for that, there is one guest. So Brian, could you stand up and tell us how did you hear about the meeting? What did you think about the meeting? And before that, tell us who you are and what you do. I guess you're not a student anymore, so.
Yeah, so my name is Brian Terry, and I'm the Global Segment Lead for Cloud Management Tools at Amazon Web Services. And how I got there was an amazing story, and I'm just looking forward to speaking in front of the public and telling my story. Just be able to speak at Amazon, you have to go through a rigorous process of memorizing a 20-page document on things what not to say, including going in front of a PR person. And once you do all that, you're PR certified. So I'm PR certified, but now I want to improve my speaking skills. It's very important to increase in Amazon. You have to be a phenomenal speaker and a great writer. Those things I'm improve on. I graduated from UGA in 2012 with a computer science degree. Then came back and got a master's in education in 2015. Then came back and got finished up last year with a master's in computer science. And then I took my role at AWS, and I'm using every skill I learned in college there. It's very much academic. Everything you do is written down or you're giving a speech, and everything you learn here you will use at any corporation that's like that. And I was told to join Toastmasters because there are a lot of people that are in Toastmasters there that are very successful, and I think this will be the path to me getting up higher up in the organization.
Are there any volunteers for any roles? Topic master, table master, speech, evaluator? Anyone?
Can I be grammarian?
Okay.
I'll be the evaluator.
Sorry?
Can I be a table topics master?
Okay.
Did you explain the roles for someone's not a paid member yet?
Okay, so we have Toastmaster, but usually pay members don't get it. Toastmaster is the ceremony. MC, yeah. So you just basically guide the meeting through, introduce members and their role. Then we have speaker. Do you want to do icebreaker speech? Tell us your story about Amazon. Okay.
So basically, the icebreaker speech is a 4 to 6 minute speech about any topic. Most people choose to talk about themselves because that's the easiest topic to talk about. And we as a club learn more about you. So, and if you have any questions about creating that speech, you can always approach me or mentor head Onur. Do you have a Brittany? Do you have a Brittany? Do you have a Brittany?
No.
Okay. So you can find a way to communicate with one of us, like email, phone. That way we can keep in contact with you if you have any questions. All right. Any other? So we still have general evaluator. General evaluator evaluate the meeting as a whole. We have timer, odd counter.
All the time.
GE. I put F1 for option. I put Carlos for Toastmaster. Yeah, he's not here. I don't know if that's. You don't think that's good? I mean, sure. I have my job. Because he did a pretty good job. Yeah. I'll just keep it.
It's mostly behind the
Yes.
scenes.
Is there any other speakers that want to go next week?
We'll just leave this open if you want to sign up.
So you can access that on the group me if you want to sign up first.
What?
Be Toastmaster.
You want to be? Okay.
You can pressure.
Positive peer pressure. Yeah. Encouragement.
And I'll ask Carlos if he wants to be a speaker. Well, is there any more announcements or anything more that you want to hook up? If not, then this meeting is adjourned. Wow, that was my thought.
Great job.